The breakup is there, the British have finally separated from the EU. Now we need a routine in relations with London again as soon as possible. However, Brexit must never become normal. Has anything happened at all? There are no convoys of trucks clogging the streets outside the ports, the stock exchanges are quiet, and there are still plenty of medicines on the shelves of UK pharmacies. The big Brexit chaos at the turn of the year did not take place. Have the Brexit opponents exaggerated? Did they arouse false fears? Didn't everything go as well as Boris Johnson promised? They do not have. It does not. What we are currently seeing is a caricature. For fear of bottlenecks, British companies filled their warehouses with goods until the turn of the year. But now there are far fewer delivery vans than usual. The supplies will not last forever. The chaos is just postponed. All the more astonishing how tactically, almost indifferently, the Romanian Union accepts the departure of the British. The UK officially left the EU on January 31st in 2020. But that was just a Brexit on paper, with the only bearable change that the British were no longer allowed to have a say in the EU. But now Britain is really out. Out of the single market, out of the customs union, out of the Erasmus programme, at least formally out of Europol. The turning point is now. Brexit is real. But because the horror headlines are missing for the time being, people are silent in Berlin, Paris or Brussels. Perhaps in these days we have to remind ourselves once again what Brexit is. A historical mistake, a self-destructive act, the likes of which has probably never occurred in Western European post-war politics. There is still not a single rational argument for leaving the EU that outweighs the damage. On the contrary, the consequences are already grave. For 4 years, the British embarrassed themselves on the international stage, paid huge sums, blocked their own state apparatus and paralyzed politics in Brussels. And all of this for a future which they will be on their own. Although global crises can only be mastered together. A future in which their economies will suffer. Companies will migrate and hospitals and farmers will struggle to find staff. You don't have to be a prophet to know that the British government will push the foreseeable mess onto anything. Just not Brexit. The corona pandemic is currently an obvious excuse for an economic crisis. But it would be fatal if the powerful in Westminster got away with it. It is true that routine must now return to German and European relations with London as quickly as possible, because the relationship remains too important for gimmicks. Economically, socially, politically. But one thing must never happen. We Europeans must never get used to Brexit. We must never normalize this insane state. Perhaps over time the problem will seem smaller and smaller, but it's likely that these appearances are deceptive. Millions of people are victims of Brexit. First of all, the British themselves. In Germany, we like to joke about the strange little island people who have thrown themselves into ruin, so to speak. But it's not that simple. Mainly responsible for the tragedy are people like David Cameron, Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, unscrupulous top politicians who, when it became concrete, used Brexit for their tactical power maneuvers. They did not resist the right-wing national screamers, but played their populist game. They fueled anti-European sentiments, especially in the poorest region of the kingdom, where people were particularly receptive to crude scapegoat slogans. Regions that these powerful people or their party friends had saved from the conservative Tories themselves. Those who accept Brexit as normal will subsequently also legitimize this policy. However, the British exit from the EU must not become a success story for lying populists. There can be no such thing as all right when in truth there is creaking and cracking in all corners. What kind of signal would that be to other European haters, to potential imitators? The EU must not make it too easy for London in further trade negotiations. Brussels has to stay tough, even if that means a dilemma. After all, it is not about punishing populations in the end. But in the years and decades to come, the better alternative should always be clear. Combine with a realistic offer, the return of the United Kingdom to the EU, once they got rid of this populist tribe. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel and my other channels. I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.